All right, we'll call today's meeting to order. It's the day after. It's the day after the federal election. It's April 29th, 2025. This is the Rail Community Committee regular meeting, our second in what seems like about 19 days, I think, for this committee. So I'm Brian Mays. I'm the City Councillor for St. Vital Ward. I'll be chairing today's meeting, joined by my colleagues, Matt Allard, Councillor for St. Boniface, and Marcus Chambers, Councillor for St. Norbert, St. River. We should first do a land and also city staff here with us today as well. Like to do a land and water acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. So procedurally, first, could we get a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Councillor Chambers, I think you wanted to move a new business item.
Yes.
We can deal with it
at the end of the
yeah,
meeting.
okay. Sounds good. So then we just have no delegations, Madam Clerk. It's probably the shortest agenda we've ever had, coupled with a very long public hearing agenda, but so it goes. All right, so I'll hand the chair to Councillor Allard.
All right.
And I will move, number 1 was laid over. I still have difficulties with the narrowness of the lots, but there were a number of special circumstances, and it went through a committee other than ours, so not much to be done there. So I will, I'll move the public service, where are we here? Implications of the recommendations, where are the recommendations, Madam Clerk? There. I'll move the approval of the submitted plans.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
Number 2 is a great rarity, the public service supporting someone who wants a non-conforming approach. This is at 271 Yellow Moon in Sage Creek, not to be confused with Red Moon or Red Sky or Blue Sun, all of which are in Sage Creek, as Councillor Allard will perhaps remember. But Yellow Moon, this is a very new street. This is, I don't think there were any houses on this at the time of the 2022 election. So good to catch this now rather than grafting it in later. So it's a request for a slightly wider than standard front drive.
Sounds like a stellar part to get to the ward, Councillor Mays. It sounds stellar with all those suns.
Oh yeah, no, it's interstellar. Yes, probably even more in there.
Yeah.
Anyone from staff have any comments on this one? It seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the applicants have made a request for a wider driveway to accommodate a wheelchair accessible van for their daughter. For the purposes of accessibility and the fact that the widening is minor and does not create any additional significant impacts on the available street parking, urban planning has agreed to support the application.
Well, that's often we get in arguments over these, so this is good. Okay,
To be clear from the public service, so like the part of the consideration was accessibility in this case? Okay.
Correct.
That's
all
good.
of
That's good. That's good to know. Okay, thank you.
So I will move. I'll move the public service recommendation here that the non-conforming approach be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
Councillor Chambers, now would be the time, I guess. Oh, supporting reasons. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Is this a public hearing? No.
No, but
But
supporting
we still need
reasons,
supporting
yes.
reasons? Okay.
A pleasant voyage into reality from the planners when considering a non-conforming approach. So often we argue about these on gravel back lanes, but this is a good view of the reality of the situation. People with disabled child who need wider access. Brand new area west of Bob Boxstall Drive. So like I say, no, I don't think there are any real implications here for changing around what people have gotten used to. It's not like it's grafted into an existing neighborhood. So those are my supporting reasons.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
Council Chambers, then, if you could move your new business item?
First, I
Yeah.
think we need to move for new business. Is that
Thank you,
correct?
yes, first,
I'll move that. I'll move for new business.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right.
So there's an application for a block party at 749 and 753 Townsend in the Fort Richmond area, which I am interested in supporting. Block parties, are an opportunity for neighbors to get together and, meet one another. Working together in neighborhoods does address the community crime situation where they're looking out for one another. So these are the kind of activities that I want to support in the wards. So I'm putting this one forward. The event will take place on June 22nd. So with that, I'm approving $300 for that purpose.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Madam Clerk, likelihood one of us will remember something, probably me, later on today. And if we're still meeting, we can still come back and do another. All right. I think we don't need to adjourn, do we? And we,
We'll just recess until.
okay, we'll recess then until public hearing at 10:30. All of these are proceeding, I take it, as far as we know? As far as we know? Okay. Thank you. Don't need to do the land acknowledgement again, do we?
You're online.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We're into the public hearing section of the meeting. It's Brielle Community Committee meeting at its April 29th, 2025 monthly meeting. I'm Brian Mays. I'm the City Councilor for St. Vital Ward. I'll be chairing today's meeting. I may have to step out for one of the items. Councilor Matt Allard from St. Boniface is here as well, and Councilor Marcus Chambers from St. Norbert, Seine River. We've got a fairly long public hearing agenda today, so we'll move right into it. Madam Clerk, if you can get us started.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is an excess animal permit at 47 Blackwater Bay under file PA1 of 2025. Please note communications were received in support of and in opposition to this matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. If the committee would like, I'm not sure if there's someone from the public service here for this. Okay. If you'd like
Yes.
an overview from the public service.
Welcome, yeah, fire away, please. Long day ahead. So what's up with 47 Blackwater Bay excess animal permit?
I'll just give a quick overview on kind of our process and our involvement as Animal Services. So the applicant is Jennifer Hurst at Blackwater Bay, 47 Blackwater Bay. She is looking to get a permit for 7 dogs and 0 cats. So Jennifer Hurst admitted that Misty Titran does reside with her from Monday to Thursday, and she has 4 dogs. Remington is a dog that belongs to Jennifer Hurst's daughter. She states that she's currently in BC, but suspects she'll be returning to Winnipeg and residing with her at 47 Blackwater Bay. So Misty, her dogs include Hugo, Lola, Nitrous, and Holly. Nitrous and Holly have not been fixed at the time of our inspection, but we were informed that there was a plan to have them both fixed. So we were just looking for a follow-up on that. And Jennifer claimed ownership of 2 dogs herself, which is Ace and Roxy. Both are spayed and neutered, licensed, and up to date on all vaccinations. We do have just one concern that was received yesterday. We received multiple screenshots with concerns that Misty is breeding multiple dogs and selling her puppies here in Winnipeg. This is a concern to us, and we would like a little bit more information on the situation as breeding is not prohibited under the excess animal permit. I do have screenshots here where there's admittance that she is breeding on the side, and she will have puppies ready in mid-May. Jennifer agreed that she sees she has 2 veterinary clinics, or 3, sorry, that she uses. There's Graydon Central and Transcona Vet Clinics. Vaccinations are up to date, and we do have proof of all licenses. We received her application on January 13th of this year. During our inspection on February 1st, we confirmed there's a 6-foot wood and chain link fence surrounding the property. There was plenty of food and water and enrichment available. The house had some clutter but sanitary. The yard was a little bit of a concern with 3 to 4 days of accumulation. We do take note that this was in February, so as the snow is melting, of course, sometimes it's tough to keep up on cleaning up the yard. Yes, and then we addressed the 2 intact dogs, and Jennifer stated that they are not breeding these dogs at that time. We have the neighborhood support. There was 2 neighbors that supported. Then there was a school property, and 1 residence did not sign. We confirmed that the posters were up. They were delivered on April 8th, and they were confirmed posted on April 14th for this hearing. The priors are minimal. In 2025 or January 2025, sorry, we did have a barking complaint. The complaint also included the yard was full of feces. December in 2024, there was a breeding concern. We confirmed during that investigation that the roommate is living at the residence Monday to Thursday and has the 4 dogs. At the time, there was 1 pregnant, but we were told the dog had since been rehomed. Jennifer claimed ownership of the 2 dogs living with her full-time. And then in May of 2015, there was a found dog. The dog was brought to 1057. So besides having my concerns around the breeding, she has met all of the stipulations to be approved for the permit, but I think I would like some more information on this time before I'm in full support.
Any questions?
Well, I mean, I guess most of our public hearings are related to property, and there's usually a public service recommendation. So at this time, you're saying that you may or may not recommend? Is that what I understand?
I would like more information on that breeding, just because that goes against what our bylaw suggests. There is no breeding permit to the address. If this is strictly excess animal, all of the animals do need to be spayed or neutered, and there is not to be any breeding occurring. So currently, from the information that I received, I'm not in support of the permit because they're not following the stipulations.
Okay, so you are currently not recommending approval of the excess animal permit at this time?
At this time, until they can prove kind of otherwise. Correct.
Okay, that's clear to me, Councilor.
Good question.
Okay.
Okay, so this address at 47 Blackwater Bay has 2 people living in it that they both own dogs.
From what I was told is 1 person is full-time, Jennifer Hurst is full-time living in the residence, and Misty is only living Monday to Thursday. She has another residence in Saskatchewan, apparently. So she's only living for most of the week there. And then Jennifer has a daughter who is in BC. I'm not sure if she's moved back into the home or not at this time.
Well, for me, it is about being a responsible pet owner, and in that perspective, knowing that you are moving back and forth, or you have residents in multiple provinces, recognizing that in one situation you're going to be in an excess pet permit. I mean, I don't know if that is responsible pet ownership. So just my thoughts. Sorry.
Thank you.
Let's keep going.
Yep. Okay, so, anyone, thank you, anyone
Thank you, counselors.
registered in delegation?
No one registered to speak to this item, just confirming that no one in the gallery is here in support of this matter, wishing to speak in support, in opposition to, or with respect to this application. No? Okay.
I'm ready to move a
Okay,
motion.
so do we don't need a right of rebuttal then, presumably, if, no, would such exist in this, because it's public service, not the applicant?
The applicant isn't here to speak.
All right,
Any submission to consider from the applicant?
Yes, there was one in support from the applicant and two in opposition.
Okay.
right, well,
I mean, my,
Councilor Elliott, Councilor Chambers?
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think I want to support the public service on this at this time. So anyway, go find the script.
Noting that the written recommendation in front of us from the public service is to approve 7 dogs for a
Right.
term of 5 years. That
Right.
is not, however, the gist of the presentation today, so.
So we heard that there's new information from the
Yes.
public service in terms of why that's changed.
Okay,
Okay, so I move that the report of the public service be taken as read.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that the oral version of the public service recommendation be concurred in. So, Madam Clerk, would you please help me out here? This is odd.
You could say that the recommendation not be concurred in and the excess animal permit be refused.
So moved.
Okay?
We need supporting reasons on that?
Supporting reasons, the public service has stated clearly why, at this time, they are not supportive of an excess animal permit, and that new information would be required in order for them to support. We don't have the applicant here to answer any questions, so given the information we have available at this time, I think it's reasonable to support public service.
So, again, I'm looking at the recommendation of public service. It says that an excess animal permit of 47 dogs be approved for a minimum of 7 dogs for 5 years. And
But
you're-
He
It's because
he
we're-
inserted the word oral because the presentation we actually had today.
So the written report says one thing, and then the oral report says completely the opposite.
Okay.
So I'm going with the current oral as
Oral,
opposed to the
okay. To the
old
written.
Written, yeah.
Just make sure
Okay.
that it's on the public record.
Yeah, yeah.
Clear on that? Okay. Call the
So
question
that
then.
was moved as per Madam Clerk's words.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, contrary, that's carried.
So I move that the criteria under subsection 27(1) of the responsible pet ownership bylaw number 92, 2013 are not satisfied.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary, that's carried.
Please note the committee's decision with respect to this application is final and may not be appealed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We are moving on then.
Okay, item 2, sorry.
Also in River Park South, we are moving on to 163 Charing Cross Crescent.
Item 2 is an excess animal permit at 163 Charing Cross Crescent under file PA2 of 2025. Please note additional communications were received in opposition to the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. If you'd like a brief overview from the public service.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you, counselors. The applicant's name is Tracy Dubois, living at 163 Charing Cross Crescent. She is looking for a permit for 10 animals in total, 4 dogs and 6 cats. Tracy stated that they have 6 cats and 2 dogs as their own, living in the residence permanently. They also have 2 dogs that they do not own, but are staying with them during the day while the owner does work on the Dubois home. The owner of the dog is Benji, and the dogs are Buddy and Buck. Both of the dogs are Chihuahua boxer mix. Dubois stated that the dogs do not stay overnight, and the owner resides in St. Boniface. We inquired if they reside in the home throughout the day, every day, and Tracy stated that while the work is being done, they will be. So we attended the residence and provided a compliance order as we were struggling to gain compliance on this process. The compliance date was back in October, and we gave them till October 25th to either reduce their limits to the legal limit or have the application process completed. Tracy confirms that her veterinary clinics are Bridgewater and Prairie Mobile Vet. The vaccinations are up to date on all of the animals. We received the application first in 2021. We provided compliance order to move the process along. Struggling to maintain contact with Tracy, we provided multiple extensions to the resident to help meet the criteria to obtain this permit. We completed our inspection on February 6th of this year. The front yard has a large outdoor patio where the cats can go in and out through the window. It is closed off in the winter. The home was clean, free from odors, organized, and well-kept. The downstairs is blocked off from the dogs, but there's a cat door for the cats to access the downstairs. There was lots of beds and resting places for the cats. The cats were friendly and approachable. The dogs were also friendly and following our officers around during the inspection. They were slightly overweight, but Tracy claimed that she does limit the food to prevent overeating. We had no welfare concerns about the animals, and there's no obvious health issues on any of them. The yard is fully fenced around 6 feet on the sides, and the back is approximately 4 feet with a makeshift fence. The dogs are too small to be at risk of climbing this fence. We recommended that there was an addition of 1 to 2 more litter boxes. There were 2 litter boxes, but they were very large. So we suggested to add a couple more to the residents. We have neighborhood support that was signed off on November 11th of 2024. And we confirmed that the posters for this hearing were up and posted on April 16th of this year. We haven't had any priors in quite some time. Our most recent was in September of 2022. We had a barking complaint there with multiple dogs. Prior to that was the October of 2022 with another barking complaint. There was complaints of excess cats in February of 2022. Another barking in September of 2021. A couple of cat running at larges in 2021 and 2020, and then a pursue, which is an animal that is not in the home any longer, in November of 2018. From our investigation and from the information we collected from the owner, we are in support of the permit.
They need a permit for excess. What would they be permitted to have and not need a permit? 4 dogs and 0 cats, or what?
It's 6 animals in total, and up to 4 can be dogs. So a maximum would be 4 dogs and 2 cats to be within the limit.
All right. Any questions?
So up to 6 animals and 4 can be dogs.
Correct.
And in this case, they've got 10 animals
Yes.
and 4 dogs.
Correct. So they're over by 2 cats.
I'm not going to ask about proration.
No, surely they're
rationales.
over by 4 cats. If your total can be 6 and you got 4 dogs and,
Oh, sorry, 4 cats. Correct. Sorry. My apologies.
That's,
Yes.
I'm paying attention. All right.
okay.
So 6 animals with a maximum of how many?
4 dogs.
4 dogs.
Yeah. So the
can have
max you
6
can have
cats.
is, you can have 6 cats.
4
You can
dogs,
have 5
2
cats,
cats.
1 dog.
6 cats.
Sure.
You cannot have 5 dogs.
No.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
And the last incident that was called into 311 where there was a noise violation with regards to a barking animal?
Correct. And that was in September of 2022.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. On we roll.
Okay, no one has registered to speak with respect to this application, so just confirming that no one in the oh, okay. Okay, so you're looking
good,
to
all
speak in support of the application? Okay, so you'll need to fill out a public representation form. You can make your way down.
All right. It's part of the AI.
What's Susan,
My sixth sense.
Susan Russell? Chambers is 2360. Susan Russell's here for the same area.
What's that?
This is in Russell here for
Same
public
area, Punted from.
Feeding the Google nuclear power plants using Gemini.
Well, if we live long enough to see nuclear power now, be our, coming back as our savior, our hero, go nuclear.
Google's doing it already, so.
Zach's frantically taking notes.
Hydro's building natural gas turbines, 1.2 billion
Yeah,
of them.
I've determined that issue is completely hopeless. Just let it roll.
I had the AIs calculate things. We need to increase our hydroelectric capacity by a factor of 4 in order to replace
Really?
in order to replace all of our all of our petajoule energy requirements according to the federal government. This AI stuff's crazy. Like I can produce research that would take
Yeah.
it would take a staff of 20 to come up with that, and there'd be inaccuracies in the staff work. Whereas the AIs can be inaccurate too.
It's actually good to know, because there's a research question on the fourplexes that I'm needing to do, so I'll start by doing this.
Yeah. Just feed it to the
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, you've got up to 10 minutes to speak to us, and we may have some questions for you, so thank you for coming down. Fire away.
Okay, I just wanted to say my piece. I've taken on all these animals. Originally, the one cat was not mine, but I rescued that cat from a very terrible situation. She ended up getting pregnant. She had the 5 babies. I'm an animal lover. I couldn't give them up. I've done everything I can to love, care for them, give them all a safe place to be. That's why I had a gentleman come and build the cat patio, so they weren't out wandering. They're in their safe space. Also with the dogs, I've had numerous animals throughout my life. I've always taken care of them. Recently, I've had JJ, who passed away at 18. I also had George, who was a Chihuahua, who just passed away at 22. They all live a very healthy, wonderful, loving life. And I've just taken these animals on and cared for them because nobody else would. So I'm doing everything I can, abiding by the laws and taking care of them and loving them.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Councilor Chamber? Councilor Eller?
Just in terms of alignment, so you're supportive of the public service recommendation?
Pardon me?
Just in terms of alignment, you are in support of what the public service is asking for,
What
or is recommending?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so we have alignment on that. On the Chihuahua, was he nice? I haven't met a nice Chihuahua yet.
George was beautiful.
Yeah?
And I have another one now, Simba. They actually are very nice. They're all bark and no bite.
All right.
And they boss the big dogs around. Even if it was a Great Dane, the Chihuahua's the boss.
Okay. Councilor Chambers.
And they are good alarms, by the way. If you have intruders,
2 years out of them, so that's impressive. Okay, Councilor Chambers?
Yeah, and thank you for your presentation this morning. It clearly has come across that you have a love for animals. You've got 6 cats and 4 dogs here.
correct. Two of the dogs stay at my house for the day for Benji. I also do work with Benji. We do renovations together with our boss. So he has his dogs there. He also has been doing work at my house. I do have a koi fish pond he's working on. He does build a lot of materials for me at the house, so he helps me out with that at the house.
Yeah.
So Buck and Buddy are his 2 dogs.
So
He lives with his brother.
your neighbors, you have only one neighbor? Because you're at your
No, I have
corner lot?
2. I have one behind and one beside me.
Oh, okay. But you are a corner lot?
Yes,
You have
correct.
nobody to, I'm going to say that is the south or west?
That would be the west.
To the west.
That's open, yeah.
Okay. So your neighbor on the other side of you, the blue house I'm seeing, do they have any animals? Any?
On the east side?
Yes.
No, not that I'm aware of. They had a dog there at one point, but I think it was just visiting. They were taking care of this dog for a bit.
Okay. And then the neighbor behind you, do they have pets?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah, I
But
love animals as well. The only concern that I would have is barking dogs.
Right. But I would like to say I did catch the neighbor behind me. He's leaning right over my fence like this, and he's provoking the dogs. I was there. I let him out to go to the washroom. And the dog started barking, and he was leaning right over. So you're provoking the dogs. I phoned 311, put a complaint in. Who's there to protect the rights for my animals? They're barking because you're entering. I did video it also.
All right,
They wouldn't be barking otherwise.
thank you.
And you don't border on a school property, right? That's the other one that we had? That's
No.
Blackwater? Okay.
No, I do not.
Thank you.
I have a lot of people who love that cat patio. Kids come in, they ask if they can open it and go inside and play with the cats, which they do. I also have a school bus that comes right on my corner, and all the kids and the parents just love the cats, and they come and give them treats and toys, and,
Okay. Thank you.
okay.
Sorry, just one quick question. Was this structure permitted?
Pardon me?
The structure, the cat patio,
No,
was it permitted?
no.
No. Okay.
It's stable, it's attached to the ground, and it's to the inset of the window.
It doesn't have a roof, something like that?
Well, it's open. It's all chicken wire, and then it's made out of wood. I didn't bring a picture of it, sorry,
Well,
but
there's one on Google Maps.
he's probably, the gentleman who built it actually uses the picture of mine at my house for his ad. It's very well done.
Councillor Chambers, I suggest that may be out of the scope of this hearing today, though there may or may not be compliance issues on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Chihuahua question. Okay. What's
Okay, just
Out of
confirming that no
scope.
one else in the gallery is looking to
The
speak
Chihuahua
in support
question's
of
out
this
of scope, yeah,
application?
sure.
No one is looking to speak in opposition to or with respect to the application? I mean, okay.
How much as
Is there
we'd
any
like to
questions
try.
of public service?
I mean, I don't have any questions on public service.
Good, okay.
I have one quick question. There was I guess, a home study that was done on February 6th, 2025. Was that prearranged, or was that like just an impromptu inspection?
They are prearranged just to ensure that the owner is home. We've tried doing them pop-bys, but it's resource wasteful as many people aren't home at certain times, so we do prearrange them.
So the report that came back said all of the kennels were clean, the
Yeah.
house was clean. Again, it was on the basis that it was prearranged.
Correct, correct.
Questions? If there, are there no further questions?
There are no
Just in terms
further
of process?
questions?
My inclination would be to support the public service recommendation. We have alignment from the
Yep.
public service as well as from the applicant. And it seems to me the owner is doing what they're being asked to do, so.
Okay, do you want to, I don't think we need to hear a rebuttal to, we didn't have any evidence presented to rebut, so I think we're okay
Right.
on that.
Well, Madam Clerk?
Technically, the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal, but if they don't feel the need to,
Well, let's go by the book, right?
Ask, yeah.
Anything further to add? Tracy?
Well, at the microphone.
oh, sorry, you'll just need to come down. Just so you know, there's no new information permitted. It's simply responding to any comments that you've heard.
So you get sued. Won't break things.
What do you rebut on?
Yeah, I know.
I know, you're right.
I just wanted to respond to, at my house is always clean. Like you said, even when you come in, there's no odor. I did say to Animal Services, you don't need to make an appointment. You can pop by anytime you'd like. Nothing changes. And also that I have had the poo crew come for quite a few years now, and they clean up the yard twice a week in the backyard, so there's really no feces or, it's all cleaned up. And I pay for that every month.
All right,
Right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Gentlemen,
I'll move the motion. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Services be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the application for an excess animal permit be approved.
Although, do we need,
And based on the following reasons, based on the report of the public service, there hasn't been any recent complaints filed in the last 3 years, the last one in 2022. To the comments of the public service when they attended, the house was clean, the yard was clean, there was no smells or anything like that. So from that perspective, it does appear that the homeowner or the pet owner is being responsible. So in that case, I am concurrent in the recommendation of the public service.
very good. Anything further? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the criteria under subsection 27(1) of the responsible pet ownership bylaw number 92/2013 are satisfied.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye. That's carried.
Please note the committee's decision with respect to this application is final and may not be appealed.
Sure.
Like really just 2 minutes, watch.
The next item up is on Craddock, so if people can start getting ready for that. We've had a request for a quick break, and then we'll be back. So the next item up is closing portion of Craddock. Okay, we'll call today's meeting back to order. We're on to item number 3 of 8 on our agenda. This item is closing portion of Craddock Avenue east of St. Mary's Road. Madam Clerk.
Item 3 is a closing of portion of Craddock Avenue east of St. Mary's Road under file DAC 1 of 2025. Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. The committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Yeah, we'll say on this one, so once when I was at the Court of Appeal, when I was still lawyering, a three-way fight, interesting intellectual issues, and the judges greeted us with, boys, we've been waiting to hear this one all day. So boys and men and women, I at least have been waiting to hear this one. It is a very interesting file. It has, I've been involved in this or been asked about this for several years, doing something in this area, so glad to see it finally coming to a head, one way or the other. There's a lot of different issues at play. So, yes, let's hear from the public service, please.
Yes,
Peter,
good morning, everyone. I'm here to present this closing application. The applicant, CoCar Law Group, on behalf of the owner of 1141 St. Mary's Road, has applied to close a portion of Craddock Avenue east of St. Mary's Road. The proposed street closing and purchase will facilitate a rebuild of the owner's restaurant, George's Burgers. The owner plans to demolish the restaurant building at 1141 St. Mary's Road and construct a new mixed-use, multi-unit commercial and residential building anchored by George's Burgers as its main commercial tenant. The closing application was circulated to city departments and utilities. If the street is closed, Manitoba Hydro, Centra Gas, and Bell MTS will require easement. The public service does not support the proposed street closing for the following reasons. The proposed street closing would limit the city's ability to collect recycling and garbage in the immediate area. Another concern is the potential impact to future plans to improve the intersection of St. Mary's Road and Abenaki-Mikanah. Should council decide to approve the proposed street closing, it is subject to the following conditions. The purchaser must submit a development application proposing a plan of subdivision that creates a single lot or a plan of survey that creates a single parcel to facilitate consolidation of their adjacent holding, with the portion of right-of-way being closed. The purchaser is responsible for obtaining approval and meeting any necessary conditions in respect of the above noted development application. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you clarify for me, or for the hearing, I guess, two things? So the only garbage and recycling concerns, I would assume, are the two properties on Craddock that are currently occupied?
Yes, it is my understanding that collecting vehicles would have a hard time accessing the public lane and servicing those properties if they had to come from Chesterfield Avenue due to the angled configuration, and which would potentially cause damage to private properties. So recycling garbage services are not in favor of the road closure without an acceptable alternate collection vehicle plan.
Okay, I'll have comments on that later. B, the flesh out, elaborate if you would on the intersection enhancements. I'm not sure of the exact wording you used, the public works issues with the road closure.
Yes, Public Works Department states that in order to facilitate future growth in the south end of Winnipeg, the intersection of Abinajimikana and St. Mary's will need to be improved, and that the proposed development that will be facilitated by this closing is unlikely to be compatible with these improvements.
All right. I am sure the applicant would want me to ask that, or point out that south between Abinajimikana and Craddock, there's a Manitoba Hydro corridor though, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so our enhancements would also need the blessing or run afoul of Manitoba Hydro's requirements possibly.
Yes.
Okay, any further questions? Yeah.
I'm just looking at this configuration here as well. You're saying that there has to be a plan, I guess, ingress and egress?
That's correct.
If there's any reconfiguration done here to allow for ingress and egress off of Chesterfield?
That's correct. If the garbage pickup has no access off of St. Mary's Road onto Craddock Avenue, they would have to come off Chesterfield, yes.
Okay. And certainly, there's traffic engineers or traffic studies that can be done to figure out how to do that so that, I mean, St. Mary's is a transit corridor. This is exactly what council has been approving in terms of housing. So, I mean, there's got to be something that can be done here that allows the city to increase the housing stock and come up with a solution for ingress and egress as well.
For further clarity, the map that we have in front of us showing Craddock Avenue and the area that's proposed for closing, rather ironically, it's colored green, but
Yeah.
de facto Craddock Avenue that you see there is grass east of the back lane. Craddock Avenue, well, I'm slightly too far. A good chunk of Craddock Avenue, the bit that lies in front of the two houses is already grassed over. You've got to collect from the back lane as it is. That should be clarified. You wouldn't know that from looking at this thing.
That's correct.
That is lost in the mists of planning history, why that ever came to pass, but on we go.
Would there be any houses that are impacted? I see 34 and 35. I guess that's Craddock Avenue?
Two houses two houses lying west of the north-south lane there, and then the third, the sort of trapezoidal property is vacant.
Yeah, number 33 seems to be vacant. Again, I'm looking at Google Map,
Oh,
and there appears to be 3 lots, 2 that have buildings
Right.
on them. Okay.
correct.
All right. Thank you.
May have misused trapezoidal there. All right, on we roll. Thank you for the presentation, thank you for the work on.
Thank
If
you.
we do approve, then these conditions should apply. That was very good of you. Okay, Madam Clerk, no further, one other thing is, as Councilor Chambers has pointed out, St. Mary's Road is a transit corridor. Though not a corridor, identified for frequent transit, Abinogi-Mickinaw is also identified for frequent transit service for the purposes of our zoning calculation. So I think the applicant would want me to point out that you've got, the property is clearly adjacent to St. Mary's Road and close to Abinogi-Mickinaw. Okay, on we go with the applicant.
Okay, so the Lincoln Atten and Vasily Matheos are speaking together as the applicant. Are they here?
Good morning to the distinguished council. My name is Lincoln Atten. I am here on behalf of the Afantis family, who are sitting there up in the gallery. Now, the Afantis family owns and operates the original George's Burgers and Sub franchises across the city. I believe there's 6 in the city, 9 across the province. But the flagship property, the main restaurant, is actually at the corner of St. Mary's Road and Graddock Avenue, which is why we're here today. And as you look at it, as I'm sure you can see on your map, Craddock Avenue doesn't really come across as a public roadway per se, at least to the average citizen driving on the street and driving past it. It looks more like a frontage to the restaurant itself. In fact, in terms of like maintenance and upkeep of the road, it's actually Mr. George Afantis who, for years and years at this point, has been planting flowers in the area, has been picking up garbage, even bought a Bobcat to clean the streets so that customers coming in have a clean pathway just to get to the restaurant, and just basically keep the area looking good, as he takes pride in the area. Now, this all kind of started a few years ago as Dimitri Afantis, the son of George Afantis, just in discussion said, I wish we can just tear down this restaurant, this building, and just rebuild a brand new one right here. And that's because their flagship store, it's older, a lot of work needs to be done. And in reality, renovations just aren't going to cut it. They do need to build a new standalone restaurant. So we looked into it, and upon digging into it a little bit, we had some conversations with Miss Kathy Gannon, who works with planning and development in the city. And she actually had advised a couple years ago that perhaps a larger idea, a larger development or a bigger plan might be more helpful if we were really to come forward to the city with this sort of proposal. So we dug a little deeper. And that's pretty much what brings us here today and the application that you see before you. Now, full disclosure, I just want to put forth that even though I'm here as counsel for the Afantis family, the reality is my relationship with them is more akin to a family. So what I'm going to say to you right now, I'm saying from the perspective of one who I have personal knowledge of this, and I've seen it firsthand. But the Afantis family are community builders. They are the type of citizens in Winnipeg that bring people together. I know this firsthand. I've seen it in various communities, the Greek community, the Italian community, soccer and athletics, even just customers who are frequent customers at the restaurant that come there. Anytime they have something going on, a fundraiser, a wedding social, something to raise money for a local team, this family's involved. And the reason I bring this to your attention is because we come to you and ask for this opportunity because these are the type of people who deserve this opportunity. They're the ones who give back to Winnipeg. And this type of project would be the type of project where they're going to give back even more, because what are they trying to do? They're going to develop the city, they're going to build affordable housing, and create a place where everybody in the area can go to and continue to experience what they have now created to be a historic and local brand, recognizable in Winnipeg. In my opinion, I think the concerns as raised by Public Works are obviously that they're logistical. And I understand that, and I do believe we do have answers to it, which can be spoken to by Mr. Vasily Mateos.
Plug it into the laptop there.
I will have comments.
Right away, the build thing.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vasily Mateos. I'm the architect who's been working on this really exciting development on behalf of the Ifandis family. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be part of what could be a really interesting chapter in Winnipeg's city building. I'll just direct you all to the Google Earth view here, where we have a little bit of context showing George's Burgers, this iconic blue roof here at 1141 St. Mary's. It's been serving up delicious burgers since 1989, and as Lincoln mentioned, the family have been a bedrock of the community. And so now with the restaurant going into its second generation, this really ambitious and exciting plan with a very modest ask from the city is on the table. And we're hoping that this can unleash some really interesting urban development and housing that both the city and the country most desperately need. So as has been described previously, St. Mary's has been identified as a corridor by both our Winnipeg, pardon me, not my Winnipeg, it's all of our Winnipeg, 2045, and it's also been identified as a priority corridor in Complete Communities 2.0. As you look at the map here with the three-dimensional view of all these buildings, there is a fairly high density of development already right at that point as you enter into the older part of St. Vital. And it really seems like this small strip of land is the next logical piece to infill that, to greet citizens as they move north. That's the pattern of urban development. In terms of rapid transit, the Winnipeg Transit Master Plan has identified that just 150 meters from the site, there will probably be a very major station at the nexus of Abinogi and St. Mary's. So this is a perfectly positioned property for pedestrian access to and from what will be an exciting rapid transit station. And so briefly, the project is a 6-story, right now it's envisioned as a 6-story mixed-use structure with approximately 38 homes. We could have 2 commercial suites on the main level with, of course, George's Burgers anchoring it all at the front and center, right up to the roadway. The tax uplift here could be as high as $110,000 a year, $120,000 a year. So by the time Public Works decides when they're going to start the study, the city may have collected in excess of $1 million from this development. So actually, if we get down from space now and we look at Craddock Avenue, the situation is pretty interesting. First of all, 50% of Craddock Avenue had already been given away by the city. As I understand from chatting with Brian, probably in the 60s. It's slightly before my vintage. There are about 175
I don't know if I
feet.
use the term given away, but it is grassed over, certainly.
It's been grassed over. Okay, pardon me. Let me go back here, Brian.
It's Councillor Mays.
Councillor Mays. My apologies, Councillor Mays. I'm actually referring to the link to Dakota, which would be on the right-hand side of this screen. So the actual access between Dakota and St. Mary's has been severed decades ago.
So that used to be a continuous street, Craddock, all the way to Dakota?
No, it's not a street, so
The question was, did it used to be a street all the way to Dakota? And we think yes, and in fact, Rose Avenue extended all the way to St. Anne's, so
Okay.
I suspect in some pre-Abenogi-Mickinaw era, that might have gone all the way through, but anyway.
yeah, so for context, there's a multifamily with the parking lot. So what would have been Craddock Avenue has been built over and taken over by the private sector. The view from Craddock Avenue here, this is actually right at the, not quite at the end. We're hoping to take this part of paved road as well as what has been built over and buried. There is about 136 feet of Craddock right now that has been annexed by a neighboring property and used as a commercial parking lot. There, as you see, there's about 1.5 to 2 feet of earth that covers Craddock up to the first residential lots. Beyond that point where the residential lots begin is forest. It's been overgrown. And in between the trees, there are a couple of fire hydrants. And Councillor Mays had the privilege of walking through this with us as we looked at the context and confirmed the conditions. Now, our pre-application for rezoning was actually submitted about a year ago, and we received some very valuable feedback from the public service, from the planning division, from Manitoba Hydro, from Water and Waste, and from Public Works. So our group proactively got
Move extension of, how much time will you need to complete?
maybe 5.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Move extension 5 minutes?
Okay.
Appreciate that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But let's try and keep it to 5, please.
Yeah. I thought I had my own 10-minute slot, but I was
Yeah,
sharing
that's
with Lincoln
fair. I
anyway.
think that's fair. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so proactive meeting was held on October 21st with Facilities Transportation Engineer representing Public Works to discuss or elaborate on any plans related to an intersection enhancement. We spoke with Water and Waste about garbage and recycling pickup and that concern, as well as with City Planning, Devin Clark being the district planner. We were informed at that point that there was a plan for an intersection improvement, but that the study to define even the scope of that would be years away. We came out of that meeting finally with an indication that Public Works would mark up our site plan, which I'll show you here, to show us which zones of Craddock might be sensitive and, we may have to forfeit or build around in order to accommodate a future intersection. And there was a promise at that meeting, and several emails later by November, we were told that, in fact, Public Works was not going to comment on any future plans. So we really have nothing to go off of in terms of how to accommodate any future intersection improvement. And we don't even know if there will be an intersection improvement in the next decade or so. So just to walk you through this very quickly, this is a three-dimensional rendering here of the development. So our building is this. Can you see my mouse cursor? So our building is the one that goes east-west. We've got the Manitoba Hydro lands that the family has been leasing that right to have parking on. Our plan right now accommodates anywhere from 70 to 100 parking stalls, depending on the configuration, and those details can be developed as a second step once we get the ability to close the road. In terms of garbage and recycling pickup, we are open to allowing the small or even a conventional sized recycling truck or garbage truck to actually traverse through the development. As you see just to the north of the building, there's actually a laneway that's going to be privately owned, and the owners are more than happy to accommodate the city to give them that access so that there isn't a hairpoint turn off of Chesterfield. This is a bit of a view of what might come, where we have an activated patio along St. Mary's. Again, residential units in the back with a really commanding view of Abinogi and the Greenway to the south. The back of the building, or the south, will be facing St. Vital Mall again in Abinogi, and the Greenway. There'll be access to the public garden that's there. And really, the architecture of this is extremely flexible in terms of articulating materials and the rest of it. That's something that can be developed at a later phase.
That rendering there, you only have balconies on the southwest corner?
Correct, yeah. It's a single loaded corridor because the site is narrow. So it can make for a really unique design, and that's the kind of thing that architects love, is to play with constraints like this.
Quick question.
Yes.
Where would, and, go ahead and finish.
Okay, sure.
So I'm not cutting into your.
All we're on here today technically is the road closure,
Correct.
though. This does speak to why you want the road closed, but ironically, we wouldn't probably have a separate rezoning hearing because this will probably get caught up in the malls and corridors piece, but I'll have a question about that to Mr. Clark here in a few minutes, but go on. I took up some of your time there.
No, that's perfect. I have 54 seconds left. So in closing, we feel that this is a product or a project that's going to enhance the public realm. It'll just build community more. We will have, this can generate an incredible amount of property taxes for the city. Importantly, the owners are willing to pay for the relocation of infrastructure that's already under Craddock right now. We've had very productive meetings with Manitoba Hydro, and we've had the relocation of some poles priced out for us back in January, and the price is acceptable to the owners, and there is very minimal other infrastructure on the site that we're very confident as designers, we can deal with all of this via design of a building at some point in the future.
Okay,
Out of time.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll have some questions, but first, Councilor Chambers.
Yeah, and you touched on hydro poles, but my question was, would there be any plans to bury some of those hydro lines as opposed to just moving the poles and relocating those lines?
That would be a great question for Manitoba Hydro. There are about 3 offending poles. Luckily, not the ginormous ones that you see that are metallic. So again, pretty minimal infrastructure, and I think that would be a wonderful design feature to be able to bury those. Yeah.
And second question is snow removal.
Yeah.
Removal or storage on site?
Yeah. So so what is the question exactly?
So-
Or will be.
Looking at your parking lot, and then there's that green space with some trees right to the back.
Yes.
Are you planning to move the snow onto that green space, or
Totally remove it off-site during the wintertime?
I think either option is something that can be, discussed as part of a later process. That parking lot is quite large to the south on the leased hydro land, so I can't see us not being able to sacrifice, 3 or 4 stalls in the wintertime to accommodate that. Yeah, and perhaps that could be a separate agreement with Hydro if the city feels that that's appropriate. We'd be happy to, open that kind of negotiation up with the utility. There's a lot of land back there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my questions are more for admin. 2 things, Devin, Mr. Clark. So, as you will know, we recently approved rezonings, changes around malls and corridors. Certainly parts of St. Mary's Road fit that corridor definition. I'm assuming this stretch of St. Mary's Road falls within the corridor?
Correct. Yeah, this site is identified as a regional mixed-use corridor, which would qualify for the malls and corridors PDO.
Right, with various provisions about heights and
Correct.
privately owned parks, et cetera. Okay. And so, Mr. Kowalik, if I can ask you something, premature to be talking about, this is right on the edge of the combined sewer district. a district, major district has some combined, some separated, it's a mix. This is just the road closure phase, I assume there's no, there may be concerns down the line, but at this stage, you don't, you
Yeah,
don't.
this is the road closure phase. They would still need to rezone and absorb the, purchase the land, rezone it, and amalgamate the lots. It is part of the partially separated combined sewer, so they would need to come up with a offset or a solution that allows them to increase the wastewater to the sewer.
Okay. Even more obtuse question. The council recently passed a budgeted $12 million to help developers with infrastructure that would help these malls and corridors type projects. The map is not granular. It looked to me like maybe the old restaurant qualified under that program, but this is a street right now, so you wouldn't have a street address that would qualify. Do we have any, still premature on that? I mean, they may be able to get some help with the infrastructure costs, but
Yeah,
we don't know for sure if this property is in or not, or do we?
you're referring to the malls and corridors PDO or the half funding?
The half funding for infrastructure, which we don't have yet, the 12 million.
My understanding is they would need to apply and demonstrate the need. So I would say that's not, it's really premature.
Okay, yeah, just if you look at the map of qualifying properties in St. Vital, you're sort of squinting, does that go to Maxime's, does that go to George's? But, okay, it doesn't hinge, this vote today doesn't hinge on that, but it would certainly make it more economically viable. Okay, thank you. This question, I'll save, I think we have more delegations coming, because I had a question about plans to close the existing facility during construction versus not closing the existing facility, but that's, if there are other delegates coming, I can, if the owner is registered to speak, so I can. Yes. Okay, I'll ask him that, or her that. Okay, I don't think there are any further questions. Thank you for it's been a long road, and you'll have a long, it may take a while yet, but thank you for your patience.
Okay.
So next up is.
All right, next to speak is Carrie Werschler in support of the application. And after Carrie will be Dimitri Ifantis. So Dimitri, you can make your way down and just have a seat on the bench there in anticipation.
There's only 5 registered, right?
Yes.
There's Carrie.
I have to change my glasses. Not into progressives yet.
Fire away, Carrie.
All right, I appreciate your time today, Councillor Mace, Councillor Allard, and Councillor Chambers. Will I share some thoughts on behalf of the Ifantis family, namely George, Alina, Anastasia, and Dimitri. So I believe being part of a community fosters a sense of connection, inclusion, and belonging where people come together, support each other, and work towards common goals whenever they are given the opportunity and feel they are heard. In the context of a longstanding restaurant of 38 years in the neighborhood community of Riel, such as George's, the idea of belonging takes on an even deeper experience. I stopped by George's 31 years ago, where my patronage has taken on a life of its own, including invitations to family functions, many a chat with family and friends, and my presence here in front of you today. In fact, during the numerous hours I have spent in this establishment with family and friends, it also afforded me the time to do my studies and achieve my university degree. I used to sit in the back room and it was quiet in the afternoon and do my studying. I'd like to highlight the following. Their commitment to fresh, great food, consistency, and more notable is the fast service when people are meeting short timelines and are really hungry. The staff value customer service. They're friendly, warm, and attentive. The atmosphere is welcoming, where people love to gather, and such a great place to meet informally. George's is a self-made institution, a local favorite, and not just for their food, but for how they've invested in the neighborhood. George himself is a generous being, as we've already heard. We're not only in the neighborhood community, but outside too. Donations to sports groups, weddings, fundraisers, and including our Winnipeg Jets. These are family values which continue to this day and will well into the future. Their presence has brought more foot traffic and positive attention to the area that benefits many a business near and far. Family generations have picked up the ball, and they now visit George's. In fact, 9 restaurants are up and running throughout Winnipeg and Manitoba. And I also note there are many positive reviews on Google and Yelp, if you care to take a peek. I have a long-standing friendship with the Ifantis family today, as do members of my own family. And I can tell you this restaurant is not just a place to eat. It serves as a gathering place for memories, to make memories. Relationships are built, as we've heard, and where more bonds are reinforced that unite us as neighbors and community members. And I can't count the number of people I've run into at George's that I haven't seen in years, where I've ended up meeting them there myself for either lunch and sometimes stayed for dinner. Crazy, I should get a life maybe. Although I have family from Alberta that come and visit, and BC, I think they come to see me, but for the most part, I think their main quest is get to George's to have a solid George meal. My intent here today in speaking on behalf of the Ifantis family is to support the proposed redevelopment and enhancement of a new George's, including the promotion of density of residential mixed-use buildings on Craddock Road. By investing in this beloved establishment and what I believe as an institution in the community, we would be revitalizing a cornerstone of our community and good densification close to schools, traffic, and bus routes. 38 years of investment in the community, and the restaurant is still standing, albeit it's time for a new do. The corner of St. Mary's and Abinogi presents as a field and a hydro right away at this point. To wait for any proposed future development of that particular corner would be a setback for the Ifantis family, who has invested their lives built on legacy, passion, dedication, connection, and livelihood, not only for themselves, but for the community. In addition, there will be an opportunity for future employment, as there will undoubtedly increase growth and development. And I suspect a few of you may have been to George's already, and if you haven't, please check it out. Councillors, thank you for hearing me today, and I wish you a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down here today. Any questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you for your delegation.
Okay, next to speak is Dimitri Infantis, and after Dimitri is Anastasia Ifandis.
Anastasia is going to speak now, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. My name is Anastasia Fandis, and I'm the daughter of George of George's Burgers. I'm not here to repeat what others have to say. I'm just here only to speak on behalf of my immediate family, from the heart, and the family that we've created with our staff, our customers, and the St. Vital community. This is 2 days of petition from my staff who are all for us doing this. We have become a staple not only in Winnipeg, but all throughout Manitoba. I was raised in the restaurant, and I was taught to work hard and take care of those around me, to serve good food, and for you to be able to come with your 20 friends or alone, because it didn't matter, we were there to keep you company. Not only have the customers watched us grow and have been a part of many moments in our lives, but I've also been a part of so many in theirs, the highs, the lows, the weddings, the passings. I've watched so many go from high chairs to grad dresses to now their own babies in some of the same high chairs, reminiscing about how George himself used to give them ice cream, and I used to walk around with them so their parents could eat in peace. My brother and I have watched our parents hand down the dream they made reality, give us more than we could ever ask for, so now it's our turn to hopefully be able to do the same for our children and watch them thrive and keep the local restaurant alive. I'm here to hopefully have you understand that what we are asking for is not just for us, but for the community, for the old, the new, the customers, our amazing staff that we couldn't do without. We want this opportunity to be able to give more and to be able to do it for another 50 years. We are not wanting to change who we are or what George's is about. We are nowhere near retirement. And we have always spoken about what we could do to make that corner even better for St. Vital. So here we are with a chance to keep growing and going. Thank you.
Thank you. Two questions, I guess. Thank you for coming down and presenting and for your persistence over the years and trying to keep this dream going. Two questions. People might say, well, why don't you just tear down what you got and go up and just build something, build a restaurant there, forget about all the housing stuff, forget about all of that, just tear down. But, I mean, you don't have a huge property there, but that would be a fair question, I think. Why don't you just tear down what you have and go up and with a new restaurant?
Doing so, we would have to lay off 30 of our staff members, lose all our customer base for a year or two, however long it takes, and our income that provides for the 3 of our families. It'd be really tough for doing that. So when this opportunity came, we decided to take it. Now the residential, that was a joint thing that was asked about, not from us, and we said we will do anything to make this work. So we just kept going forward. That's when we got this team involved, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, and I guess a similar question that would be, so should the road closure work? Should all the negotiations work? The vision, as I understand it, then, is to keep operating in current building while new restaurant is being built. Once that's completed, old restaurant comes down, and the land, does that service, is that parking, or is that's access?
It'll be a little bit of both, depending on how the architect can structure that, but it will lead to the back, so it will give access to the 2 homes that are there, and Maxime's turning to the left.
Right, okay. And you don't, okay, so yes, you talked about if you have to tear down, then you're gonna lose the customer base, and yeah. I presume the new restaurant would be bigger than the current somewhat awkward footprint with that odd back room that you can't really see, but.
It seems like it'll be a little bit bigger, probably holding more staff, more customers. We're trying to grow as much as we can.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there are any other questions, so thanks for your patience. Thanks for your presentation.
Okay, so that is it for the registered speakers. Is there anyone else in the gallery wishing to speak in support of this application who has not yet registered? No, okay. We don't have anyone registered in opposition or with respect to the application. So just confirming that there's no one in the gallery looking to speak in opposition to or with respect to this application? No, okay. If there are questions for the public service?
It's pretty technical, but we heard from the applicant that, hey, we'd be fine with some sort of easement to allow garbage, recycle, compost trucks to come across our property if needed to get to the remaining houses on Craddock. we don't need to get into that mire today, presumably. This is just a road closure. Mire is perhaps judgmental. We don't need to get into that complexity. We could add that, or that could be added by civil service through the malls and corridors piece.
They're going to have to do a rezoning.
Yeah, so through the malls and corridors, if they complied with all of the requirements under that PDO, then they can proceed, as of right, so to speak. There would be obligations from a permitting perspective to ensure that those properties are serviced. If they do not conform to the PDO requirements, they may need to go through a subdivision rezoning process, which would then warrant the full certification.
And they would retain that right anyway, I guess, under, okay. Is there some, again, probably not for today, but is there some, obviously, our road with an apartment building on it would have some value. The city would be entitled to some, the bigger the apartment building, the more valuable the land, one would think. But again, we don't need to get into that today, Mr. Clark, I'm assuming. I'm not really sure how that process would work.
I guess once land is more intensively used and it's taxed on that basis, then the value of the land and the taxation value increase beyond being a public road right of way. If that answers your question.
But they're going to need to purchase this from the city at some point, one would assume, to have title to the close.
Correct.
Okay. So, but again, we don't need to go down that path today, I don't think. Any further questions, gentlemen? It's time. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The applicant can come and speak in rebuttal to any evidence that they've heard put forward. They cannot bring forward new evidence.
Correct. Yes, so Lincoln and Vasily, if you wish to speak in rebuttal to comments you heard today, you're welcome to. You don't have to, but okay.
Okay, so we are, and Madam Clerk, just before I'm gonna move this, and hand the chair to Councillor Allard. Where's the, this is just public hearing. Right?
Oh, yeah, the right-of-way closures are different.
Thank you, okay. All right, and you've got the.
Yes. Did you want me to circulate it to you?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the actual motion. I will hand the chair to Councillor Allard. There is some wording that was put forward by the staff if we did want to not support the public service recommendation, so I think we'll have that available. Okay, so I will, I'll make a motion and give some supporting reasons.
Okay.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, this goes all the way up, right? This goes from here to Planning Committee to EPC to Council.
Correct.
Okay, so this is not the final stop on this journey. Then the three more committees, there are three more levels above us who will consider this. Okay.
Does the municipal board have jurisdiction?
Great question.
This is not with respect to a proposed bylaw for
And so, no, okay.
for a subdivision rezoning. No, this is a closing.
I'm going to move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service not be concurred in and forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. And in lieu of that, Madam Clerk, you've circulated the wording. I wonder if you could read that out then.
Sure.
I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay, that the recommendation not be concurred in and the following be recommended to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. 1, that the proposed closing under file number DAC 1 of 2025, shown on Appendix B, the closing, be approved and the affected land be declared surplus to the city's need, subject to A, the approval of the conveyance of land by council or its delegated authority, B, the owner or assignee fulfilling their obligations under the administrative conditions of approval outlined in Appendix A of this report, 2, that upon instruction from the director, the city solicitor prepare and bring directly to council for enactment a bylaw to facilitate the closing, the bylaw. 3, that this matter will be deemed to be concluded and all approvals in connection with this matter will expire if the bylaw is not enacted within 2 years following the date on which this report is approved by council, unless A, the owner or assignee applies for an extension of time before the expiration of the 2-year period, and B, council approves the extension of time. 4, that the bylaw will expire and this matter will be deemed to be concluded if the bylaw is not registered at the Winnipeg Land Titles within 1 year following the date on which it is enacted by council, unless A, the purchaser applies for an extension of time before the expiration of the 1-year period, and B, council approves the extension of time. 5, that the proper officers of the city be authorized to do all things necessary to implement the intent of the foregoing.
Okay, a lot of technocratic boilerplate there, perhaps, but necessary from a legal perspective. So, my intent here is to keep going forward here with the road closure that's necessary for the restaurant to put up a new building. Lots of issues still to be resolved, but that's not a bad problem. Hopefully we can get something going on the site. So, yeah, George's is a good part of the community, certainly. I remember sitting in there the day after the 2014 election, celebrating my victory, spreading the newspapers out all around me, and taking a couple of hours just to enjoy the moment. So it's a good part of the community. You could perhaps move our city staff along a little more quickly when they're in there for a couple of hours, but that's a separate issue. But well used by the community, a good community, supporting things in the community. So, but the core of this is, look, we're trying to densify along the major corridors. This couldn't be closer to a major corridor. And as I think Dimitri pointed out to me, I'm close to the other one too. I'm close to Abinogi-Mickinaw, which is has frequent transit elements as well. So you really couldn't get a much better site. Frankly, if this was Maxine's parking lot, we'd probably be running up there to shake your hand and thank you for building on it. But this is a little trickier because it involves Craddock. Okay, Craddock, I don't know who said it, maybe Vasily said, look, it doesn't even look like a street. It looks like the entry to our parking lot. That's exactly what it looks like. That's what it serves to do right now. It's like an entry to a back lane. It's really quite strange. So the two concerns, the one, the future off-ramp from Abinogi, I doubt I will be here to see that. It seems awfully overcautious from Public Works to bring that in. Especially no plans, there's no drawings, there's no imminent work to be done to create some sort of off-ramp. So let's play this as it's presented to us. Number 2, I gotta say that I got so many complaints from the people on Craddock in 2012 when we went to a new garbage and recycle system that the trucks could never find them, and I had to intervene. So to be told all these years later, oh, don't do this, it'll hurt our ability to collect from the people on Craddock, I just can't quite handle that. So it's not landlocked. I mean, the irony is it is landlocked off the front already. There's a back lane there. We'll figure something out. It's not that hard. They have to go to the back lane as it is. It's just a turning radius thing. So we're not going to get too caught up in that, I hope. So look, we're being told in the press release after press release, oh, we've told all the city departments to act like they're housing departments. And yet here we are with this proposal right there on St. Mary's Road in the corridor, and we're being told by the public service, no, we don't want any part of this. Well, I mean, I frankly said to the mayor's office, well, I kind of feel like if I side with the public service here, I'm going to get rebuked for being anti-housing, and if I vote against the public service, we're going to have a, frankly, I feel like people have been supporting the public service in all disputes with me in this term of office. It's been very frustrating. So put yourself in my shoes. So I'm going to go with the housing aspect of this, and if people want to vote that down, they can, but I'd rather see housing here than trying to jam a bunch of 39-foot tall fourplexes into St. Michael's Road, which is about 90 seconds away. This is where we should be developing, so let's see if we can make it work. It's possible we can't due to the sewer issues, Mr. Kowalek's flag, due to the costs of moving sewer. There are certain complexities here. On the other hand, that building that we saw, I'm betting under the malls and corridors, they're entitled to a much taller building with more density than even what they've put forward. So, long and short of it is, maybe it'll get voted down as it goes up through planning and EPC and council, but at least I can say, you know, those of you who criticize me for being anti-housing, you know what? Where were you on this vote then? Because I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to move that we go ahead and close the road and see if we can come up with some sort of deal to get some residential housing and a brand-new George's restaurant that'll employ 20 or 30 people, put that in place. So that is what I'm moving.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is that motion in order, Madam Clerk? Yes. Other
So-
discussion?
Yeah, so I'm supportive of this project as well. You know, there's so many advantages, and again, as alluded to, and I asked a question about it being on a transit corridor, and of course it is. With the fact that the city of Winnipeg is transforming its transit system this year, June of this year, identifying, you know, St. Vital Center just to the south of it as one of the transit transfer places. I mean, this is exactly what the Housing Accelerator Fund is trying to address, development along major transit corridors. So I see this as a good project. I think it would have been easier if with the application, we got a whiff of a Fat Boy burger. That would probably push this along even quicker. But it's a good project. I see the advantages to having the restaurant there as well. And again, I think the issue of road closure can be satisfied. I'm sure that there are traffic engineers that will come up with a solution to accommodate both the development and the road.
Okay, so comments on the record. I don't see no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried?
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council.
Are we breaking due to,
Aren't
you've got a
there-
meeting, you've got a meeting?
I have a meeting at 1, but
You have a meeting at 12.
Yeah, mine is at 12:30. So
Why don't
can we,
I'll opt out of this one then, because my meeting's going now, and then
can we start the hearing and then break for lunch?
Well-
Yes?
if we start the hearing, whoever's in the hearing has to be there for the whole hearing. Or
Yeah,
they
so
can't come back.
so are you looking at leaving now?
I was going to leave now, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
And then
I'll
we
be
can-
back
we
for
can start
6,
this.
7, 8.
Yeah.
But at 12:30, I have to break for lunch because I've got a police board meeting.
Okay, I'll go to my meeting. Okay, I'll be back for 6, 7, 8.
Okay?
Okay,
So you're in the chair?
I'm just thinking, if
This is,
I,
yeah, this is for,
if I were to go to my meeting, then that'd be problematic for
your
for
meeting's
that
at what?
hearing. Well, it's like, it's
your meeting's at 1 o'clock, isn't
it's
it?
at 1 o'clock, but it's a pretty long meeting,
Oh, jeez.
unless we were to adjourn till that time. I don't know. Or if I send regrets to mine.
But I'm fine to adjourn until 1:30.
So let's, if we adjourn until 1:30, that allows me to participate in the meeting that I have. Allows you to participate in yours, and Councillor Mays would be available at that time?
I'm not too sure when he's available.
Well, we'd have to check with Councillor Mays.
Yeah. Can you,
Can we check with Councillor Mays to see if he's available at 1:30?
1:30? Yeah,
Okay,
let's recess.
so we can recess without breaking anything? Okay.
Yeah.
So am I in the chair, Councillor Chambers?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will recess? No motion necessary?
No, just, do you know when you're coming back?
1:30,
1:30?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm concerned about quorum at 1:30. That's why.
Yeah, we just need to check with Counselor Mace.
If we recess till 1:30 and at 1:30 we don't have quorum, what happens?
If you're both not here, we can't reconvene the hearing.
Is there a statutory deadline? Like, does it have to be like 30 minutes from that time? Or?
No, that's just for the start time.
And then what
We
if,
suggest that you announce the start time so that folks know when they're coming back.
yeah, and then if 1:30 didn't work, could 2 o'clock happen anyway?
Yes.
Like if we didn't have quorum? Okay, all right. So we'll adjourn planning to return at 1:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay? All right. No motion, that's.
Hello, we'll reconvene today's meeting. It's the April 29th, 2025 meeting of the Riel Community Committee. On to the public hearing portion of the agenda. Next up is, I believe, a combined hearing. Madam Clerk, for 2360 St. Mary's Road.
Yes, item 4 is a subdivision and rezoning at 2360 St. Mary's Road under file DASZ 2 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing, and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 5 is a variance at 2360 St. Mary's Road under file DAB 277770 of 2024D. Please note, communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and then those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. The committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Sure.
Alrighty, thank you. So the subject property at 2360 St. Mary's is located on the west side of St. Mary's, close to the perimeter highway, along the portion of the former alignment to the improved interchange, to the improved interchange at the perimeter highway. The property is located within the Normand Park neighborhood of the St. Norbert Seine River Ward. The site is currently zoned RR5, rural residential. The property is approximately 122,000 square feet in area and is currently occupied by a single-family dwelling that was constructed in 1960. The property is located within the established neighborhood's recent community policy area under the Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0. The proposal is to subdivide the property into 2 lots. Lot 1 is to be rezoned to the RMFS, Residential Multifamily Small Zoning District, and will be approximately 61,000 square feet. Lot 2 is to be rezoned to the PR1, Parks and Recreation Zoning District, and will be approximately 61,000 square feet as well. Development on the RMFS property is proposed at 20 units, consisting of 14 3-story townhome units and 6 2-story townhome units contained within 5 separate buildings on site. Building heights for the 2-story townhomes are proposed at 27 feet, and building heights for the 3-story townhomes are proposed at 33 feet, 8 inches. The required parking for the site is 30 stalls, and that is based on a 1.5 stall per unit basis. And the site is exceeding this total parking requirement by providing 46 parking stalls. Landscaping is proposed along the street edge, along St. Mary's, which requires 14 trees and 62 shrubs. The submitted plans include 17 trees and 62 shrubs. Building foundation landscaping is provided around each of 4 buildings, which meet and exceed the required shrubs, with the exception of one of the 5-unit 3-story buildings where 2 trees are proposed in place of 12 shrubs. 2 5-liter in-ground bins, one for garbage, one for recycling, are proposed on site for garbage pickup. And variances have been requested as part of this application as well, primarily with respect to the front yard setback to both buildings and the parking area, insufficient building foundation landscaping for that one building, and the proposal to utilize tandem parking on some of the internal driveways that lead to garages. The Urban Planning Division has recommended approval for the subdivision rezoning application, as well as the variances. Approval of the DASZ includes conditions of plan approval by the Director of PP&D, the requirement to install and maintain fencing or bollards along the property line, abutting the public reserve lands, and adhering to floodproofing criteria for development within the floodway fringe area. Variance approval includes a condition that the variance will not come into force and effect until the DASZ is registered as bylaw. And that concludes my overview.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers, anything?
No questions?
I thought I had a question on the variance, but we're not on to the variance yet anyway, are we? Or is this all consolidated? Okay.
Oh, just one quick question. Based on the reduced setback, the properties directly to the north of them will not be impacted by building sightlines?
Yeah, the reduced setback does apply to that building positioned most northernly in that corner. It's technically closer to the front yard than that single-family dwelling. There is a buffer provided in between the new building and the existing dwelling, a number of trees and shrubs to create a bit of a landscape buffer between the two sites. So yes, there is a reduced front yard setback.
Yeah, so this is the new one, we had that whole long business about that property at the south end of Redview, but that's not adjacent, that's two down from this?
It's one down, but there are three or four houses.
In between?
In between.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 houses in between.
Councillor Chambers' ward, so he's got the background. All right. Okay, if there are no further questions for admin, on we go.
Okay, so first up, registered was the applicant, Melissa Nearink and Susan Russell. Are you Melissa?
Yes.
Okay, and sorry, your name is, sir?
Party Bueller in support.
Okay, so you're appearing with Melissa as the
Correct.
applicant?
Susan couldn't make it, so.
Okay, okay, so you'll share the 10-minute speaking time then if you're,
Yes. First, I guess I gotta say, it was, timing worked out perfect to go have a George's Burger for lunch. I'm the property owner. I'm gonna let Melissa walk you through our presentation, and then I'm here for any questions that councilors may have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Melissa Nearing from McGowan Russell Group. We're the landscape architects and applicants on the project. We were here at the meeting on April 10th, and it was adjourned just to allow a bit more time for council to review our presentation and materials. So we won't go through it all in great detail because it is the same presentation as before, but just as a quick overview, as has already been mentioned, we're here for the subdivision and rezoning to subdivide into 2 lots and rezone Lot 1 from RR5 to RMFS for the development of the townhome units, and then rezone Lot 2 from RR5 to PR for the extension of the Bonnie Vitel Parkway. If it will go to the next slide. Here we go. So the site's located South St. Mary's Road at 2360. It's adjacent to the new perimeter interchange and is located on the old St. Mary's Road that now will connect directly to Maple Grove Park. There are 4 single-family homes just directly to the north of the property and a vacant lot to the south. Next slide. This is our subdivision and rezoning map, just showing how the property is being divided. As part of this, it's around 48% of the site is being dedicated to PR for both the construction of the pathway as well as the bank stabilization that will occur. Next slide. So just a quick overview of the site plan. We have the 20 townhome units situated in 5 different buildings. The 3 buildings closest to the river are the 3-story townhome units, each with double garages. And then the buildings closest to St. Mary's Road are the 2-story townhome units. Next slide. So landscape plan, as has been mentioned, we are providing all street edge landscaping and building foundation landscaping with the exception of 1 variance, just to allow for more trees in lieu of shrubs that would not fit on the site. Next slide. So for riverbank stabilization, the developer is investing over $2 million in bank stabilization. This is both for the construction of the proposed buildings as well as the Bonnie Vitel Parkway. So the riverbank stabilization will consist of rock caissons, riprap, and bank revegetation. And as part of this, we would like to add to the presentation just that we would like it to be considered during construction. Like, there is a study going on right now through the city of Winnipeg for riverbank stabilization in this area. And so for consideration, we would like it to be noted that any reimbursement for the value of the riverbank stabilization required to meet the factor of safety for the planned path be taken into consideration as we kind of go through construction processes. Next slide. So there are a number of variances, as was noted already. They're mostly related to the front yard setback. There was a front yard alignment that was noted at 61 feet, so we're asking for a reduced front yard setback to the townhome buildings as well as to parking, as well as the insufficient landscaping that we are providing more trees in lieu of shrubs. And next slide. And we just have a couple slides with the proposed buildings. We won't go through those in great detail. If there's any questions, please let us know after. The elevations for the buildings. And then public engagement, we had gone through this last time. We had undertaken a couple of stakeholder meetings and public engagement back in 2022. We didn't have any opposition to the project at the time. When we came back to submit this application, we did send out a flyer to the adjacent homes, and we did not receive any comments back. Next slide. And then this slide's just noting our alignment of the administrative report. And previously we had noted there was a condition for boulevard trees, but it's our understanding that that has been taken out now, as there is no room for trees in the boulevard. And then our next steps after this are to then move on to zoning and development agreements, and followed by plan approval and implementation of the project. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch base on the riverbank stabilization and just give you a little bit more information. So as the councilor is aware, the river is, at this location, is degrading every year. And if the current realignment of St. Mary's didn't happen, I suspect that the old St. Mary's is basically in the flood zone right now. Okay. As Melissa mentioned, there is a study that's happening right now, and we're investing over $2 million into just our portion of this development. That's not just for our building, but that's also for the AT path that's being constructed. We're not only providing approximately 48%, I think it was 48%, basically half of the property to the city for the PR, as well as building the AT path and doing all the work on here. What we're asking for as far as consideration for any reimbursement is that once that study is completed, and the reason we couldn't wait for that study to be completed, we've been told by the engineers that it might be 2027 before the study we get any results, and it might be 3 years, 5 years after that before any work is being done. So whatever that time is, we're willing to invest upfront those costs, and we're not asking for 100%. We're asking for, if that study shows that this property also needed to have some stabilization done, that should be considered for reimbursement for that portion of it. That's all we're asking for. What else can I say? That's about it. If you have any questions, please.
So in terms of riverbank stabilization, are there trees that are on the riverbank currently?
On our property, there are some trees. Working with the administration, we identify the ones that we can save in order to, from the engineering perspective, in order to have a stabilized riverbank that can support the AT path and the buildings for a longer term. There's some that are going to get, because of the offload of the mud, that are the smaller ones, basically that are dead or half dead, are going to have to be removed. But there are some that we identified through our study. Sorry? The arborist report that we can say we are trying to save, as well as there's numerous new trees that we're planting on the St. Mary's side, as well as the buffer between the north property. There's a 6-foot fence, as well as trees that are going to be buffering that property.
So Councillor Mays and I, last week, were at the Save Our Seine annual general meeting, and they talked about the riverbank and the fact that trees help to preserve riverbanks. So, you know, if there's an opportunity to save trees along the riverbank, hopefully that will be considered as well, even with the work that you're doing to shore up the riverbank with caissons and sheer keys and riprap.
Yes, I absolutely agree, Councillor. Like I said, we work with the administration, arborist board, the engineers, to try to identify as many trees as we could. We also own another property, which is just 1 block south of this property, and all of the trees along the rest of the properties going out to the Bonavista Park, basically all the trees have washed away into the river. There's only mud remaining there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next registered to speak in support is Kuldeep Balar. Would you like to speak or, no? Okay. No one else is registered to speak with respect to this application. Is there anyone in the gallery looking to speak in support, in opposition to, or with respect to this application? No? Okay. If there are questions
that
for
was
the public
quick.
service.
Thank you.
No, I think I have someone on the next one.
Ready for motions?
Yes, do we have right of rebuttal then, technically?
The applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made, though if there were no comments, no, okay.
Motions?
All right.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary, that's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
A slight amendment to the deletion of the boulevard clause to the ACG report.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, we had set this up last time, but as the applicant mentioned, just deleting from Schedule B, Section 4, Clause 5 in the entirety.
Okay. Hold on, let me find that.
I think if we're going to have the public service make that, then we should allow the right of rebuttal. Let's hear what the public service has to say on this, and then we can allow the
Oh, sorry.
right of rebuttal too. So fire away, and then we'll hear back from, I guess we might need to rescind some portion of this, and then, yeah, let's hear from the public service first.
Sorry. In error, the public service didn't appreciate the construction works that were ongoing with the province. The province has modified the right-of-way, and the boulevard clause is no longer required.
Okay.
And the trees could not fit within the space allowed. So the public service is recommending the removal of that clause so that it is clear that there is no obligation for the developer to do that.
Okay, yeah, and I think they alluded to that
Yep.
in their presentation. So it'll be the removal of the boulevard trees. Where is that?
It is Schedule B, Section 4, Clause 5.
What
8.
page? What page?
Page, for me, it's Schedule B, page 3.
Oh, I'm on the wrong report. There we go. Okay, got it. So the developer shall at no expense to the city sod and plant trees on all boulevards within the fronting on this, so remove that altogether.
Yeah, it's no longer required. We confirmed with Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation that they are seeding it and that it will be accomplished. There's no reason to do it twice.
Okay, can we have that removed?
You might want to just rescind the motion for closing public representations.
Okay.
Allow the applicant to speak.
Okay, so that goes back to here.
Okay, so Councillor Chambers then is moving to rescind the motion to close public representations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then we should hear back from the applicant, should they wish to speak in rebuttal to the proposed wording from the public service.
No, they're in agreement.
Okay, so you don't wish to
That was
speak
a
to
lot
that?
of process.
Okay.
All right, so we're clear on what public service is recommending.
Yes.
Clear that they've had the chance to rebut. So then, Council Chambers, I guess pick us up again after where we were before with receipt of public representation.
Well, since I rescinded, do I not have to restate that? Okay. So I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken. That one's okay. I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forward to the Standing Policy Committee on Property Development and,
Were you supportive of the proposed amendment, Councillor Chambers?
yes.
Okay, so concurring in the recommendation of the public service with an amendment to section 4 servicing conditions, deleting condition 5 in its entirety.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. And then does that go to
And then-
EPC or does that go to PPD?
P&D.
P&D.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Contrary
and sorry,
carried.
apologies, supporting reasons. for that.
Supporting reasons in review of this, the plans of the developer, it's a great project. Again, we need housing here in the city of Winnipeg. The construction that was done along St. Mary's Road, south of Burland, has pretty much been completed. I believe the only thing that they're doing now is the landscaping of the area, so it gives better vision of what that area will look like. And now the developer can come in and, add the housing that they so desire. So again, this is a good project, and I'm glad to see it happening in the south end of the city in my ward.
All right?
All right.
That fine with those being,
Okay, I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
the clerk is insisting we actually vote on the supporting reasons, so all those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay. And then do the variance.
Yeah.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property is to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons are the same as previous.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered. You okay if we proceed, councilors?
Yep.
Okay,
On
items.
to Archibald then. So
Item-
that's it for St. Mary's Road.
Item 6 is a subdivision and rezoning at 787 and 783 Archibald Street under file DAS Sed 1 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing, and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 7 is a variance at 787 and 783 Archibald Street under file DAB 277552 of 2024D. Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. If you'd like a brief overview from the public service.
Yes, please.
All righty, thank you. So the subject property consists of 2 lots at 783 and 787 Archibald, which are located at the northwest corner of Archibald Street and Garreau Street. The property is located within the Archwood neighborhood of the St. Boniface ward. The site is currently zoned, excuse me, C1, commercial neighborhood. The combined subject site is just over 10,000 square feet in area, and each site is currently occupied by a single-family dwelling, both of which were constructed in 1948. The subject property is located within the Established Neighborhoods Mature Communities Policy Area under the Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0. The proposed plans are to consolidate 2 properties into 1 lot and rezone the lot to the RMU Residential Mixed Use Zoning District. Development on the RMU lot is proposed as a 4-story building with 18 residential units and 2 ground floor commercial units. The building height will be approximately 45 feet 6 inches tall. Yard setbacks include a 14-foot front yard, a 21-foot rear yard, a 6-foot south side yard, and a 10-foot 5-inch north side yard. The 18 residential units are proposed as follows: 3 3-bedroom units, 6 1-bedroom units, and 9 2-bedroom units. 2 commercial office spaces are also proposed within the building on the ground floor. Unit 1 is proposed to be approximately 920 square feet, and Unit 2 is proposed to be approximately 580 square feet. The required parking stalls for the site is 18 stalls. 12 are being proposed. This includes 10 stalls for the residential units, including 1 car share vehicle, and 2 stalls dedicated for the commercial uses. 1 accessible stall and 1 visitor stall are also provided, and a secure enclosed bike parking area in the rear of the site is proposed, which would accommodate between 12 and 18 bicycles. Landscaping is proposed on site. The street edge landscaping along Archibald Street requires 3 trees and 14 shrubs. Submitted plans show 5 trees and 22 shrubs. Street edge landscaping is also required on Garreau Street and requires 4 trees and 17 shrubs. Submitted plans show 0 trees and 15 shrubs. Building foundation landscaping and parking lot interior landscaping are not required for this development, given that it is located within the urban infill area 1 regulations. 9 additional shrubs are provided along the north property line, so a total of 7 trees are required and 5 are provided. A total of 31 shrubs are required and 44 are provided overall on site. Garbage and recycling is proposed within the northwest corner of the subject site with access from the public lane. Vehicle access is proposed from the rear lane, which is paved. Variances are required primarily with respect to reduced yard setbacks to the principal building, including the front, side, and rear yards, as well as insufficient landscaping and reduced parking. The Urban Planning Division has recommended support for the subdivision and rezoning application, as well as the variances. Approval of the DAS includes conditions of plan approval by the director, an allowable maximum building height of 50 feet, and a requirement that vehicle access to the site be limited to the rear lane. Variance approval includes a condition that the variance does not come into force in effect until the subdivision and rezoning is registered as a bylaw, as well as a 4-foot tall permanent screen to be established along the south property line in relation to the surface parking area. With that, I'll conclude my introduction.
Can you run me through the variance on insufficient buffering and parking and loading areas within 20 feet of a side or rear lot line? I can't seem to find what's the requirement here?
Yeah, so this comes up a lot in our urban types of development. Basically, the zoning bylaw indicates that all required or voluntary yards must contain a minimum of 1 deciduous or coniferous tree for each 30 feet of linear street frontage, plus 3 shrubs. I'm reading from the wrong section.
Thank you. I thought that was getting a little
That was not at all what, my apologies. So where a multifamily use abuts a residential use, there's a requirement for buffering between the parking area and the existing residential units that's to be provided. This could consist of landscaping, fencing, but in so many instances when we're in this urban type of situation, it's not feasible. It pushes the parking area, it constrains it, it ultimately results in the reduction of further parking stalls or limitations on providing garbage location available for pickup. So it's a 20-foot buffer, and it's very challenging to adhere to. And so we see this variance quite often, particularly in these types of urban infill developments.
I'm not with you yet. So the buffering is supposed to, what is supposed to happen within 20 feet of a side or rear lot line? Is this from this isn't the infill guidelines, low-rise provision, is it?
It's not. It's in the zoning bylaw. It's an old provision. Maybe bear with me. I can look this up and get you the specific details on the landscaping requirements, but maybe can we revisit that?
Yeah, this is outside the mature communities, he said, guessing?
So it falls within the mature communities policy area, but because it's mixed-use development, our guidelines do not technically apply.
Okay, so that answers that question.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the business about the 10-foot opaque fencing, all that, which is in the guidelines, not apply.
Separate.
As, okay.
Correct.
Here I was hoping we'd have an example. All right. And but you are putting in a condition that a 4-foot tall permanent screen shall be established.
And that's along the south property line. So there's surface parking located in the rear of the site. Those vehicle stalls would be facing commercial use or residential use across the street. And it's really just as a light-proof fence and a landscape buffer.
So there are going to be, how many stalls above grade here? Or
On that side of the site?
Yeah.
Bear with me here, I'm flipping back and forth.
Stand by for a fourplex question. Roughly.
7 or 8
Okay,
vehicle parking stalls. Five vehicle parking stalls on that south edge.
Food for thought, perhaps, when we're debating the fourplexes, backyard parking, where there's no lane, and you might have people's lights, and there's no lane, there's no street, there's nothing. So I would argue we should have some similarly opaque fencing and buffer zone, but not for today, mercifully. All right. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any questions, Councilor Chambers?
Yeah, so it's the two properties, one right at the corner and then the one directly north of it.
Correct.
It's a paved back lane?
It is, yeah.
My usual question. Good.
Okay, all right. There seems to be two large pine trees right at the front of the property to the north. Those won't be saved?
I believe they fall within the neighboring property's yard. No, you're right, sorry, I'm on Street View now, I see that. I see that on Street View, but on our aerial, I don't believe they are still there.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Almost no one registered on this one, I think.
Yes. First we'll hear from the applicant, Andre Silva, who's in support of the application.
Thank you. Andre Silva, 2 Architecture. I'm the applicant and representing the client who currently owns both of those properties. Just to go through, can we put it up on the screen?
Oh, sure. Just, is it on USB stick?
Yeah, it's.
Perfect.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, awesome. Is it up on the screen?
Nope.
Great. So then you just go to Zoom here. Yeah. And then share the screen. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Just to go through, this is the building up on the screen. I'll go through a bit of the configuration first, and then some of the design features and location features that we feel are ideal. Just, I guess, to back up a bit, we've been working on this project since last summer. We have tried to engage as many neighbors as we could. We did a circulation in the neighborhood in December in the middle of a snowstorm and held a virtual virtual online to make as many people show up as possible, and we had nobody show up, and we haven't received any feedback on the proposal, so we feel that's a good sign. We hope to see more projects like this, and we think it's a really good project for this area. It consists of 18 units, as Devin had pointed out. It's three bedrooms, which is it's a bit of a stretch on a lot of properties. People like to see 3 bedrooms because it encourages families into the neighborhoods, into these buildings, and then the rest is a mix of 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. We have 2 commercial units at grade. It's a 4-story building, and 12 parking stalls at the rear of the property, partially covered underneath the building, with a car share to make up the difference on the variance, and a visitor stall and accessible stall dedicated to the commercial units. Some of the design features, if you can see in the building, I'll go to the next slide. So the site is located at the corner on Archibald, 783, 787 Archibald. Directly across from the site is a school, which we think is an amazing feature and one of the supporting factors that we would use these 3-bedroom units in the building to help support larger families living in the building. Just a block north of the building, of the site, is a church, another bunch of multi-unit residential buildings, and then basically the entire strip along Archibald, including this block, is zoned currently commercial C1. We feel it's a really good fit and a good transition between the residential homes behind and the commercial on Archibald. Some of the design features we've employed to help alleviate some of the massing, because we understand there are a number of homes around it. We call them softening elements, so that the roof and the edges of the building have been rounded to allow shadows to be less sharp and less more diffused as they're cast onto other properties. We enclose the bottom. I'll bring up some of these. This is the entryway to the building. Another element we've incorporated into the building is to pull back and recess the ground floor, shrink up the commercial, and provide a nice little breezeway. What this encourages in the site, instead of a building directly coming down and hitting the ground and creating an obstruction, it invites people in, it invites traffic in, it creates a natural canopy for rain and shadows so that the site remains cool. We feel it's a very inviting passageway and entryway into the building, and subsequently the commercial uses. And then this is it is a corner site, so part of the variances that we're seeking for side yards and front yard is that the building is pulled closer to the front. We know that those variances, the required front and side yards are quite a bit larger for this type of development, but it's important to pull these projects to the corner. Another element that we've used to break up the building.
So are you?
What's that, sorry?
You don't need a height variance?
No height variance, no. Part of our strategy for materials too is to break up the massing, even though it's a single monolithic building with some articulation in the front, is to use, well, there's two types of material. One being the black metal corrugated cladding with a white brick in the middle. But in the end, let's see here if we can bring it up. So this end one has a horizontal cladding configuration, and the corner site has a vertical, or the other way around, horizontal and vertical. That helps just break up the mass. So even though it's one big building with 18 units, we've used all these softening features and articulation and material changes and glass ground floor recessed to provide we feel a well-fitted property, a well-fitted building on the property, plus all the neighboring amenities, the school. We think it's an ideal residential project in a neighborhood that needs more residential density.
Do you have any elevations of the back?
Yep.
That's the back, oh, okay.
Yeah. And because the parking is pulled in at grade with that commercial, we feel that the site is actually freed up a little bit. The massing of the building doesn't come straight down, which creates a much more fluid ground floor for movement.
So where do you enter the parking lot from? I mean, from the back lane?
From the back lane, yeah.
And then turning into there?
Yep, I can bring up the plan here. That's it there. No, I could go one more. So like, as Devin had mentioned, the access to the parking is substantially buffered from the cross street. So we have a 4-foot side yard and then an additional pathway. Parking is there, 20-foot stalls, and then really the transit area, the most amount of movement will be in that center aisle width, that 20 feet. So movement in and out of that parking lot is about 30 feet from the corner of that sidewalk.
And where's your garbage closures?
It's in the top left-hand corner of the
Top.
right next to the bike enclosure.
Where, can you point it out, please?
Oh, yeah. Just, can you see my mouse there?
Move your, where's your cursor? Oh, there, okay.
And then
And
bike parking's right next to that.
Snow?
Snow removal, so it will be private snow clearance. We do have some edges around there, but I know the city likes to have this 3-foot buffer along lanes that they don't like to have snow along because of their own equipment. So likelihood is that most of this snow will be privately cleared away from this site entirely. There's not a lot of room for it.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
I'm just still trying to get my head around, Mr. Clark, the variance on the parking. Just trying to figure out where this, is this coming, is this when a multifamily use abuts a residential district, so this is a requirement for all multifamily properties that abut a residential district?
Yeah. So anytime commercial multifamily properties abut or are adjacent to typically these single-family residential lots at the rear, this buffering criteria kicks in.
Okay, so maybe, perhaps subsequent to this meeting, I could review that with you.
Sure.
So is that only for commercial mixed use, or?
Yeah, so there's two sections. So there's the buffering of residential uses from non-residential impacts, and then there's the buffering of parking and loading areas, which indicates that it's requirement when a parking or loading area accessory to any use other than a single or two-family residential use is located within 20 feet of a side or rear lot line abutting or adjacent to a residential zoning district. So actually, this is the more relevant and applicable clause being considered here. It's an RMU zoning district, which is adjacent to single-family zoning to the west and adjacent within that 20-foot side or rear yard setback.
Okay, and the condition you're wanting to impose, that's outside the normal bylaws, that's just a condition, that's a condition of approval, 4-foot-high permanent screen be established, visually buffer vehicles from the public realm as well as shield headlights which may shine into adjacent properties.
Correct, and that's just with respect to that south property line, where the vehicles will be pulling in and facing typically the property to the south.
But there's a road to the south, isn't there? Maybe I'm getting turned around.
There is a road, yeah, so there's the subject site, and then a road, and then across the street there's commercial residential property.
Do we impose that frequently?
We do encourage, from an urban design perspective, to screen and conceal surface parking lots, sort of in general. And then one of the benefits of that is also that it can screen headlights from shining into adjacent properties as well.
Very good. Food for thought. Thank you. All right, we'll follow up after this, hopefully. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, there are no other individuals registered to speak with respect to this application. Just checking that no one in the gallery is looking to speak in support, in opposition to, or with respect to this application. Okay, if there are questions for the public service.
Any further questions for the public service, Council Chambers?
No.
So this is, there isn't a height variance required because we're on Archibald or because we're CMU, or can you?
Yeah, RMU permits actually up to 100-foot tall buildings, and so we've capped that. We've recommended a zoning agreement condition to limit it to 50 feet. They're proposing 45 feet. We do know that, in the course of development, sometimes things can change and there's some fluctuation, so we've given a little bit of a buffer and rounded it to 50 feet.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's, otherwise unconditioned, this would allow up to a 100-foot tall building here.
But existing zoning would limit them to 35?
Existing zoning for a commercial use would be 39 feet.
Oh, it's existing is commercial?
It's, yeah, C1.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Headed
And
down
for,
a path
yeah.
I need not go down. Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, then rebuttal.
Rebuttal of the,
The applicant is entitled to rebuttal, but you don't wish to speak? Okay.
Okay, so this is a combined hearing, if memory serves, yes. So first up is the subdivision and rezoning.
so, just one second, I'll move the motion, but I just want to review something here. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development.
This one can go to EPC because there are no amendments.
Oh,
There are no amendments and no
Right,
opposition.
sorry, to EPC via the priority rezoning process, and my supporting reasons are, in review of this project, it does, again, it's a good project. I don't know that Archibald is a transit corridor, but certainly there's enough transit that, does go on Archibald. Amenities are nearby, a school right across the street, golf courses just down the street from it as well, lots of shopping. So this is a good project and want to see it go forward.
All right, yeah, I would agree that the school, I think that's Archwood School being nearby, that's certainly helpful, or, one of the reasons for the bigger size suites, that does make sense. So, all right, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay?
On to the variance, then maybe after that, a 5-minute break, and then
Okay.
knock off number 8 here. All right, so variances for 387383 Archibald.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and the adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons are the same as previous.
Yeah, I'll certainly be following up further with staff on regard to the parking lot issues, but for today, I think they've adequately explained what the buffering variance means for this particular site. So therefore, I'll support. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried. So one item to go, we'll take a very quick break, come right back, and we're on to 45 and 51 Courage Place.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
All right, call our meeting back to order. It's the April 29th, 2025 Real Community Committee meeting. We're on the public hearing portion of our agenda. We are heading to our 8th and final item. There are probably only 2 councillors in this building who'd be excited by dealing with Courage Place. Luckily, we're both here. This used to be in my ward, the most southeasterly point of my ward. You'd go door knocking and you'd turn around and you'd see "Welcome to Winnipeg." You'd be outside the "Welcome to Winnipeg" sign. You're so far south, but you're still in the city, though you're south of perimeter. Councillor Chambers has taken over all of my south of perimeter turf, though. He's been the local rep since 2018. So between us, there could be 2 more councillors more familiar with this little area, because I've certainly door knocked. I'm sure Councillor Chambers has too. So this is unique. This is where we got the beaver shooting permit, was down on Courage Place the one time, which remarkably is something you can get in the city of Winnipeg. So this is at the edge of the city, man. So, okay, all that by way of introduction, and we're on then to 45 and 51 Courage Place.
Item 8 is a zoning agreement amendment at 45 and 51 Courage Place under file ZAA 1 of 2025. Please note additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. If you'd like a brief overview from the public service.
Absolutely. Let's hear what we've got here.
Right. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and good afternoon, councillors. ZAA 1 2025 is an application to amend the zoning agreement under file DAS Z 6 1993 to remove Clause 2 in service of a proposed subdivision application associated with the file. The subject lands are located on Courage Place, a cul-de-sac in the St. Vital Perimeter South neighborhood of the St. Norbert Seine River Ward. The subject sites are 51 Courage Place, a 3.6-acre lot currently occupied by a 2-story dwelling built in 1999 and an accessory structure. Both sites are zoned RR2, Rural Residential 2 District. 51 Courage Place is currently taking access from an unpaved road, Willow Grove Road, which is not allowed under the zoning agreement. There is one driveway leading to an accessory structure and another driveway leading to the dwelling. Also associated with this application is 45 Courage Place, which is 2.6 acres, occupied by a 2-story building built in 1998 as well, and taking access from Courage Place. And the sites fall within the Rural Agricultural Policy Area under Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0. And the sites are also located within the St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan Area. The applicant is proposing to create 3 total lots from 45 and 51 Courage Place through a DASSF short form subdivision application. One of the new proposed lots would have to take access from Willow Grove Road, as it would not have access to Courage any longer. But Clause 2 of the zoning agreement restricts development on the subject site as follows, and it says, with the exception of the public reserve, no vehicular approach shall be constructed or used connecting any part of the land to Willow Grove Road, and any existing such approach shall be closed up and removed upon demand by the city. Because of this clause, the ZAA is required to proceed to a subdivision. This is the 3rd ZAA application to remove Clause 2 affecting 51 Courage Place. The first was made in 1999. The application appears to have been made to address that the approach and driveway for 51 Courage Place were not constructed as indicated on the plans submitted for permits. Instead of taking access from Courage Place, access was taken from Willow Grove Road. While the ZAA was scheduled for a public meeting in November of 1999, it does not appear to have moved forward to a hearing. The second ZAA application was made in 2009 and also included an associated short-form subdivision application. The application was recommended for rejection by the Real Community Committee, which stated in their decision, that when the Courage Place subdivision was originally approved in 1993, it was made clear that no vehicular approaches would be allowed to or from Willow Grove Road. This decision was ultimately concurred in by council, and in May 2010, the application was rejected. However, the approach was not removed at this time and remains in use, which leads us to today's application. This is now the third application seeking to remove Clause 2 of the zoning agreement affecting 51 Courage Place. In addition to the associated short-form subdivision, there are a number of maintenance variances triggered by the subdivision. This is not a combined hearing today, but they are relevant to the decision made by the Urban Planning and Design Division to make our recommendation. Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, which supports our Winnipeg 2045 and has statutory authority as a secondary plan, guides land use and development in Winnipeg. This site is located within the rural and agricultural
All right, after that unfortunate delay, we're back here at Riel Community Committee. We're on our public hearing section of the agenda, item 8. We were partway through 45 and 51 Courage Place. I think were we still hearing from public service? And then I think then we would hear from the applicant. I don't know about people's time availability due to that delay, or if people, anyway, on we go.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, so I was just saying, Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0 supports our Winnipeg 2045 and acts as a statutory authority as a secondary plan, guiding land use development in Winnipeg. The site is located within the Rural and Agricultural Lands Policy Area. The vision for this policy area is as follows. Rural and agricultural lands will be managed in a manner that accommodates food production, rural living, and supportive uses that do not require a full range of municipal services. Land fragmentation should be minimized in preparation for long-term urban development where applicable. Goal 2 of the section includes policy 2.3, which says we should encourage consolidation of existing lots. The South St. Vital perimeter plan is a secondary plan guiding development in the South St. Vital area. The subject site is located within the medium density rural residential policy area. Policies relevant to this proposal include C, to establish a medium-density rural residential area and to adopt a zoning bylaw establishing a minimum site area of 2 acres and a minimum site width of 180 feet for single-family dwellings sites, subject to approved variations. Recommendation, the Urban Planning Division recommends rejection for the following reasons. The proposal is not aligned with Complete Communities because it would allow for the subdivision of land where fragmentation of rural land is discouraged and the consolidation of lots is encouraged. The proposal is not aligned with the St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan because the proposed lot widths are significantly less than what is permitted, requiring variances. The applicant included a survey with their application showing an approach which connects their Quonset to Courage Place. If they simply extended this driveway to their dwelling at 51 Courage Place, it would be aligned with the plans as they were originally submitted when the dwelling was built and negate the need for this ZAA. The variances triggered by the proposed subdivision are a significant deviation from what is permitted and are not the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw. These variances include maintaining multiple accessory structures which are significantly oversized, including the Quonset, which would stand alone on proposed Lot 2. It is 5,402 square feet instead of 880 square feet. It also requires a variance to permit an accessory structure that is not accessory to any use on the land. Standing alone on the land, this sort of large storage structure would not be a permitted principal use under the RR2 zoning. And finally, when a previous attempt to remove Clause 2 was rejected by Council in 2010, no action was taken to act on the rejection and remove the approach, which remains in use to this day, contrary to the zoning agreement. This concludes our summary. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple questions. Sure. So the home that, there's only one other, there is one house, it appears, or maybe two, that really do have a Willow Grove address. This one looks like it should, but it doesn't. It's just extremely far back from Courage Place. Mm-hmm. Is there some, there was, from what I represented, it's a vague sense of, was there a golf course here? Was there a proposed golf course here? Any of that apparent in the history?
Nothing like that came up in my review.
Okay, there's, that first house in looks, anyway, and I would love to get some action, and maybe we can't do it through this procedure, but there's this odd Courage Place Park where there is no signage, no paths, no benches, nothing. I'd hoped to do something with it when I still had this in my ward, but this was a developer concession, I suppose, when this thing got approved in the late 90s, but are there any, none of this touches on that property. Are there any plans to do anything? I feel like the developer just walked away from this park.
Yeah, nothing to my knowledge for that parcel.
Yeah, it's just, it's like, you wouldn't know it was a park, except that grass is mowed at a slightly different height than the neighboring properties. Okay. And no city services, right? No water, no sewer out here.
Yeah, there's a septic field on site.
Okay. All right, on we go.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the applicant, Wilson Phillips, in support of the application.
Good afternoon. We just learned today, actually, because there was a notice sent yesterday, that there was somebody in opposition to this application, and we haven't had time to digest what their entire opposition is to it. I understand there's somebody here to represent for that. And then speaking with the area planner, we thought it might be wise to defer the matter to another date. Secondly, the administrative report is not complete in that, in my opinion, in that it doesn't speak to other driveway accesses that have been maintained since 1998, roughly, and other driveway accesses that went on to Willow Grove. It doesn't speak to that of non-conforming accesses, and so that might be a matter that the councillors might need to review and understand for context. In my report that I submitted yesterday for in support, there was a number of aerial imagery there from back to 1982 that I don't think has been, when I spoke with the area planner, Mr. Nuttall, by phone last week, he was going back to like 1998, which was available on his system. But we went back earlier into the 70s and 80s. And Mr. Mays was correct. There was a Shriners recreation center. There was a pool. There was tennis courts. There was golf. There was all kinds of things that had been used since the 70s. And then subsequently, just for context, the subdivision was done. And if you look on your systems, you'll see that there was multiple access points to that area, notwithstanding that there was a zoning agreement filed in 1993. But there is another non-conforming approach which has existed there since the 80s. And, well, the one in particular on number 62 has been there since 1998. And it's just sort of context that we think, on behalf of my client, we should defer this for another meeting.
Okay.
It gives the administration time to absorb that and comment on it fairly.
I'm not here the next time.
We're on rotation.
This is okay, we're just conferring. I think we both have some sympathy for the adjournment. The tricky thing is quorum, because I'm not here at the next meeting, and Allard can't jump in partway through. So we'll look, Madam.
Opposed to May? There's no meeting in May?
I believe Councillor
Or is this the May meeting?
No, this is the May meeting, and there is a meeting on May 20th, but I think Councillor Mays might not be present.
That is correct.
So June
So
25th?
June 25th would be the third meeting.
I wasn't aware, I missed obviously your documentation that had evidence of the Shriners business, which vaguely reassures me that I didn't have a false memory of that, so that'll give me time to go back through that. Okay, so June 25? Is Mr. Toyne available June 25th? we will take that under advisement, I suppose. We can't,
Will be in the morning, probably one of the first ones in the morning. In terms of a hearing.
yeah, I think we can line it up first then if it's carried over. Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so, because, I mean, I'm certainly interested in it, so I'd like to be around for it. So, okay, so,
So we would require a motion, if the committee is supportive, that the public hearing be adjourned to the Riel Community Committee meeting on June 25th, 2025, at the request of the applicant, and that public representation remain open.
So moved.
Okay,
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
okay. So the hearing has been adjourned to June 25th at 10:30 a.m. in the council building
And
at
just
Washington Main Street.
final question, I think the 1990, I think the 2010 report was attached to Mr. Toyne's submission, so that's going to be in evidence for sure, like, that's not attached to this report, but we will have various archival reports with it, okay. Okay, so I guess we are adjourned to,
So the hearing is adjourned to June 25th at 10:30 a.m. in the council building at 5
All right.
Main Street.
thanks all for your patience today, and further tested by that fire alarm, but we will certainly be looking at it seriously.
Just a motion to adjourn.
And motion to adjourn from Councilor Chambers. Aye, and that is carried. I feel like I forgot something on that main.